Spaceballs is a 1987 released spoof directed by Mel Brooks.
The Spaceballs of the title are, well, effectively people who inhabit Planet Spaceball, and they're led by President Skroob, played by Mel Brooks. They've wasted all their air somehow. The planet is running out of air. They've hatched a plan to steal all the air from planet Druidia, and to do that they're going to kidnap the daughter of the king and sort of blackmail him into giving them all their air. The Princess Vespa, is getting married to a narcoleptic prince by the name of Prince Valium. She decides she doesn't want to marry this guy because he's a bit of a loser. So she runs out of her wedding and takes off into space. So the Spaceballs, in their massive ship, Spaceball 1, which is led by Dark Helmet, they seize the opportunity to try and capture her. So King Roland enlists the help of Lone Starr and his sidekick Barf to go and rescue her. They get their Winnebago and fly over there and grab her. The film goes on from there as the Spaceballs try and capture them all, very much like Star Wars.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound anything like Star Wars, does it?
No, not at all.
I mean, what is there to say about this movie that probably hasn't been said a million other times on YouTube and websites all around the place? We thought we'd just do it because we don't really do many comedies on the channel, and we've just done a month of Halloween horror films, so we thought, well, let's do something funny. We haven't actually done a Mel Brooks on the channel either, have we?
We haven't, no.
No, and I'm a big fan of all Mel Brooks films, except maybe Dracula. And Robin Hood wasn't that good either, actually.
I was going to say Robin Hood.
Dracula's got some it's got the odd funny thing in it here and there. But, Spaceballs and then backwards. All his films are just really great. It's a great film, although I haven't seen it for years and years and years. Long time I haven't seen this for. And I did wonder, would it still hold up? Because I still love... probably my favourite of his is Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. And I watched those films, although I probably watched Young Frankenstein the most. I was kind of brought up, my mum showed me and my brothers Blazing Saddles when we were very young, probably too young. That's kind of her humour. And the producers, although I wasn't so into the producers, if you grow up in a kind of theatrical family, that the producers is like the one that you always shine. But I always preferred kind of Young Frankenstein. I suppose it's the send-up of the horror genre. But that one I still watch, over and over again, and it makes me laugh every time I see it. But I hadn't watched this one for a long time. And I have to say, actually, it didn't make me laugh as much as when I was younger, interestingly.
No?
I still loved it, and it made me chuckle a number of times. And maybe it's the Star Wars thing, because I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. It was still great, and I still enjoyed it, and I still remembered all the classic... it's got some great one-liners. It's very quotable, this film.
Well, yeah, I'm the same. I had it on VHS or Spaceballs, the video cassette. Yeah, I watched it over and over again. I remember it all. I almost didn't need to watch it because I've seen it so many times. But yeah, I think I've only seen Blazing Saddles that once. It was okay. I wasn't particularly blown away by it. But I think, again, like you say, you're not the biggest Star Wars fan, whereas I am. Especially when I was a kid, I loved all the sci-fi stuff. So I think that's why it resonated with me. Westerns, there's a few that I like, but I'm not a mega fan or anything. So maybe because of that, Blazing Saddles didn't really resonate with me as much. And Young Frankenstein, I only saw that 2 or 3 years ago. And I did enjoy it, but I hadn't seen it before. But this one definitely, it's probably not as good as those two, but for me, it's my favourite. Well, like you say, it's very quotable. Yeah, just silly.
I think what's great about Mel Brooks films are, they're very silly, but they're very, they're great. They've got great scripted jokes, but there's also some great sight gags in there as well. I have to say, when obviously the next kind of big satire, obviously you've got Mel Brooks and then you've got the Airplane and Naked Gun guys. Those kind of ones were the big spoof send-up films out there. Then later you got the kind of the scary movie ones, which I never liked those ones. To me, they were kind of trying too hard to be funny, which obviously people like Mel Brooks, they're just funny people. Mel Brooks is obviously a funny person. When I was younger, I did love this a lot, definitely. And, when I was younger, I was a Star Wars fan. And I wouldn't call myself a Star Wars fan now, but they are great films. And they're perfect films to send up. And it's amazing that no one's really sent them up before. I did read there was a short film that sent up one of the Star Wars films kind of back in the early 80s, but nothing professional, nothing released.
I think it's tricky. You sort of get on shaky ground. I think Mel Brooks sort of got George Lucas's blessing before he sort of went ahead. But then George made sure that there was no merchandise for Spaceballs because it would be too similar to Star Wars merchandise.
But then, of course, Mel Brooks goes and sticks that as a gag throughout the whole film. So one of the great things in this movie is the merchandising scene, which is still great when they first go and meet Yogurt, who is obviously the send up of Yoda, or yogurt as we'd call him in this country. And of course they say, what's the point? What is your point of being here? And he's like, merchandising. And he opens up this, Spaceballs, the t-shirt. Spaceballs, the lunchbox. It's just...
But even that, they didn't spend a lot of time on that because there's like Spaceballs, the colouring book. And if you look closely, it's got a picture of Optimus Prime on the front of it. So it's just a Transformers colouring book with Spaceballs stuck on the top of it. And I think the lunchbox was something else as well. It wasn't Spaceball, but you can't quite see the picture. So yeah, they didn't spend a lot of the budget on that, to be honest.
Quick side note, so this is another reason we kind of chose this film, because coming soon to this channel here...
Merchandising.
Yeah, so watch this space. Not this space. We'll probably release a video on it soon. Unfortunately, no flamethrowers. We won't be doing cineXplorers the flamethrower. We did try. We did have a look. We're going to do cineXplorer the t-shirt. So if you're a fan of our channel and you'd like to slap it on your chest, then watch this space. Coming soon. We're going to have our very own t-shirts.
Perhaps we need to do cineXplorers the face mask.
What? Of us?
We could put our faces on it, or just the logo.
We could do that. Then you could wear my mask and I could wear your mask.
Good.
Yeah. So on that note, back to the film. So. But no, I mean, it's still got some great one-liners and it's still got some great gags. And it sends up, it doesn't send up a huge amount of films. Obviously, it sends up the classic, the Star Wars ones. And then can you spot them all? I mean, you've got, the Planet of the Apes are in there. Wizard of Oz, of course, is in there.
Star Trek with the beaming stuff. But the vast majority really is Star Wars, isn't it, to be honest? I mean, even the Millennium Falcon is blink and you miss it, a cameo of it. You've got Pizza the Hut. He's not in it very much, but he's integral to the plot because Lone Star and Barf owe him $1 million space bucks. That's how King Roland persuades them to go and rescue the princess by saying, okay, I'll give you $1 million space bucks to go and rescue her. Yeah, I mean, Pizza the Hut is hilarious.
It's disgusting. It's revolting. He's just dripping with pizza.
I mean, apparently the suit was awful because it was actually made of real pizza and they heated it to make the cheese melt. And the first guy that wore it, in the end, he was like screaming, going, get me out, because it was starting to smoke because it was so hot. And then someone else had to get in it. As far as the effects go, they actually got ILM to do them, obviously, George Lucas's company. Some of them are a little bit ropey, but, for the most part, the effects are pretty good, particularly for 1987.
I suppose if you're from now, we're from now as well, what I mean is if you grew up, if you're younger than we are, then I don't know what it looks like to people of the younger generation. Obviously, for us, it's part of its charm, and they obviously didn't have the budget of Star Wars, so they have to make do, and it's great fun for what they do it with. And if you've grown up even films like Dark Star, John Carpenter's film Dark Star, which I think possibly there's maybe, I don't know, some kind of link there because that's very low budget, and that itself is kind of a send up of sci-fi as well. Yeah, I mean it's still great. I mean I remembered the lines as they came, as they were doing all the classic stuff, like when they rent out the videotape, of course, there's that famous scene, and it's like, where are we now?
When will then be now? Soon.
I think what really stands out for me in this movie is, Rick Moranis, for one. I mean, he's comedy genius in this film. He's just every scene he's in, he's just, you're going to enjoy every scene he's in with it. And I have to say, I think I prefer the bad guys in this film than the good guys. I mean, Mel Brooks himself is great as Skroob, but they all have the best lines in this film. The combing the desert.
When he goes to look at the radar and he's actually looking at Mr. Coffee. Everyone knows I drink coffee when I look at radar.
Surrounded by arseholes, all that. I mean, it's just got some great gags.
Even the scene, the brief scene that Stephen Tobolowsky's in, where he capture the stunt doubles. These are not them. You've captured their stunt doubles.
I think some of the jokes didn't land. I mean, they landed fine, but I think I felt like some of them could have been cut quicker. There's a couple of they drag on slightly too long. I felt. I still remembered it, every moment of it, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And especially in these slightly dark times we're living in at the moment, it's nice to watch something a little bit light-hearted that you can just have a laugh at, and you don't take too seriously for an hour and a half, which is great fun. I mean, Rick Moranis is great. I mean, John Candy, he's great as Barf. Again, gets some great lines.
I love his ears and his tail. Yeah, he constantly whacks Lone Star in the face, which is hilarious.
He does, and gets it into places he maybe shouldn't. He was kind of coming up as well. I mean, his other big hit this year would have been Planes, Trains and Automobiles that came out in 1987 as well. It's just a bit of fun, really, isn't it? It's a good fun. Doesn't take itself too seriously. Has some great one-line. I mean, what is your favourite? Do you have a favourite line in the film? Favourite scene?
Well, Combing the Desert is pretty good, and yeah, the assholes. How many assholes we got on this ship anyway? But I think the good guys do have some good stuff as well. I mean, Bill Pullman. I mean, not really known for comedy, is he? He holds his own, with John Candy, who at the time, was a sort of comedy titan. And obviously got the voice of Joan Rivers anyway. Obviously, she wasn't in the suit. But the voice of Joan Rivers, again, sort of well-known comedy name at the time. And Daphne Zuniga, I can't say if I've definitely have seen her in other stuff.
Yeah, I know her from this and the somewhat terrible sequel to The Fly. She was in The Fly 2 with Eric Stoltz. Bill Pullman does he does Harrison Ford basically, and he does that rough and ready, space cowboy, and he sends it up perfectly. I think it is a great cast. And then, of course, you've got the wonderful John Hurt, who turns up for a brief cameo right at the end in possibly one of the greatest send-up moments in any film ever. I absolutely love it. And it's kind of able, because one thing different with this film that a lot of other because Mel Brooks came from the theatre, as a lot of people did in those days, and of course the producers, his breakout film was about the stage and is about kind of musicals and things. A lot of his films featured songs and dancing, which of course Spaceballs doesn't, and it doesn't need to. I'm not saying it needs that, but it certainly happens at times in Blazing Saddles, and it kind of crops up in Young Frankenstein. I nearly said Frankenstein. But in Spaceballs it doesn't. But then at the end, of course, when the alien bursts out,
it does a little dance routine, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great line when they both say "check, please." But that still cracked me up much more than the rest of the film. Actually, I really enjoyed that.
I mean, I hadn't seen Alien when I saw this, obviously, because I was quite young.
Yeah,
so I didn't get the reference.
Yeah, same actually. Didn't get the reference. No, exactly. It's a great fun movie. This. I mean, we're not doing it. It's not on Amazon. You can rent it on Amazon Prime. But I imagine do you have it on Blu-ray?
Yeah, I've got it on Blu-ray, yeah. I mean, I've still got the DVD somewhere. I don't think I've got rid of it yet. It's disappointing it doesn't say Spaceballs the Blu-ray on it, but never mind. But it's got commentary and stuff like that, and behind-the-scenes things in it. Some quite interesting Yeah. And it's got some interviews with him and stuff. Apparently they were going to call it Planet Moron, but then a British film called Morons from Outer Space was released.
Oh.
So they had to change the name. So yeah, that's how it became Spaceballs.
Unfortunate timing that.
It was, yeah. Not a particularly unknown film, so not difficult to pick up on Blu-ray or DVD. I mean, I think in the US there was a 25th anniversary edition which had a few more features than this one. Not a huge amount. And then I think a few years after that there was Your Helmet Is So Big edition. So, which I think maybe had some postcards or something with it, but no, I don't think it had any more features. So it could probably do with a nice restoration, but the picture's not too bad. So whether it'll ever get a 4K release or anything like that with Your Helmet Is So Shiny edition, perhaps, I don't know. You can also watch the film in ludicrous speed in it as well, so it all passes by in about a minute.
Is that true?
Yes.
Amazing. Does it do the music with it as well?
I can't remember, actually. I think so. I can't remember. I did watch it, but it was over very quickly.
Let's never watch this part again.
Yes.
So that was Spaceballs, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button over there, and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's other videos to check out over here. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and join us again next week for another video.